There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With even more exclusive content, with over 150 channels in your vehicle, including the widest, deepest variety of music, ad-free. Root for your team. Get news. Listen to whatever makes you laugh. And hear all about your favorite stars. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels filled with music and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video. Thousands of hours of shows and performances on demand. What you love is on now.
So in the world of radar detection and speed trap protection, Radenso is probably the newest kid on the block, but don't let that fool you, folks, because they have some major technology and some guns, in their arsenal for you to explore and understand, both in bolt-on options as well as custom installation options. Today, we've got product expert Mindi Lane who'll be joining us to shed some light on the matter as we delve into Radenso. This is CMA Showcase, presented by SiriusXM. Radenso, and it starts now. Hey, what's going on, everybody? And thanks for tuning in to this edition of CMA Showcase presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. And as with all showcases, we promise to bring you some hot new product that you need to know about, especially as being a 12-volt specialty installer retailer. Today, we're talking about speed trap protection, radar detection, whatever you want to call it. And we're talking about a brand called Radenso. So many of you might have heard of Radenso. Many of you may not. This is the show you want to tune into to make sure you know about what your options are in this category. To get things started, we're going to reach out to their Canadian distributor at Automobility. His name is Mike Berger, and he is the Director of Sales and Marketing for the distribution company. What's going on, Michael?
Hey, Ben, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Mike. I do believe this may be the first time you're coming on to talk about this category, which I'm going to be the first to admit I am not an expert on, and I know you are, and I'm very excited to learn. So first out of the gate, what are some of the reasons why Automobility teamed up with Radenso in this specific category?
Well, actually, Automobility's been in the radar detection category for quite some time. When Radenso approached us, I guess going to be, 5 years ago now? Maybe a little more. I don't know. I lost kind of track with COVID, the years.
Okay.
But when we saw their product offering, we saw great potential innovation in this, like you mentioned, newcomer of a brand, and we were excited to work with Radenso to expand their market further by adding greater depth into this what's the word I'm looking? Invigorating category.
And it is that indeed, because in Canada, of course, there's different rules and different areas and this, so on and so forth. But one thing remains true. It is certainly a category that's worthwhile for our 12-volt specialists to absolutely invest in and to look further into if they aren't already. And I think what we're going to do today is kind of spread their imagination and also their knowledge on this particular topic. What are you, Mike? We got Mindi coming on today. She's an expert. She definitely knows what she's talking about. What are you most excited to learn about today?
Well, Mindi definitely is an expert, that's for sure. Hopefully we're going to hear some, which I don't know if she's going to reveal, but some of the new products that are going to be launched soon. But I don't know. Mindi always has some surprises for us, so yes. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, I'm excited to get her on. Let's so before we bring her on, we've got a little sizzle reel to kind of set the mood for what we're going to be talking about today. Again, we're talking about, of course, Radenso. We're going to play the reel, set the mood, and when we come back, we're going to get product expert Mindi Lane on with us. Play the tape. We'll be right back. have it. I find it always interesting that, I think there is obviously a correlation with, high performance vehicles and this type of equipment. But last time I checked, I know some people that don't drive sport cars that kind of have a heavy foot and like to, drive a little bit fast. So I would imagine that, especially the product that we saw in that video, is kind of for pretty much anybody that drives a car, really, if you think about it, Mike. What do you think?
Well, yeah, absolutely, and especially, uh, I live in Toronto, and the latest new tax grab is all these speed cameras, stationary speed cameras are putting, and unfortunately, I've had my fair share, and
Guilty as
they
charged.
they add up quickly. So
No kidding. Well, let's see if we can alleviate that. We're gonna bring on our product expert for today. Her name is Mindi Lane, and she is the Chief Sales Officer for Radenso. I'd like to welcome Mindi to the studio. Hey, Mindi.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Welcome to CMA for the very first time.
Thank you. Thank
Hi,
you.
Mindi.
Pleasure to be here. Hello, Mr. Berger.
So Mike has spoken volumes about you. He said if there's anybody that can answer every question you're going to come up with, it's going to be Mindi. So get ready
No pressure.
for a barrage of questioning. That's for sure.
I'm ready. I'm
Good.
ready.
Let's start with an easy one. I'm sure you'll be very comfortable
Yeah.
and happy to answer. There are many players within this space of speed trap detection and so on and so forth. And you guys are kind of the new kid on the block, right? There's other ones that have been around for a long time.
Sure.
In your opinion, what are some of the reasons that make Radenso a standout within this category?
Good question.
Mhm.
I like it. I think, so the cool thing about that video at the intro there, that's all of us at home base, like out there, having fun driving. We are enthusiasts. We all love cars and we like to drive fast and we hate speeding tickets. So real talk, we are innovators of our own product, and it really was born out of really necessity. A lot of us were running, rewind back 5 or 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago even, we were running Escort Radar as a standalone, and then we were running AL Priority as a standalone kit, and having to run 2 full systems through, the firewall, 2 separate controllers. Support was sometimes, a problem, various different times in our careers. And it got to the point where, well, why don't we just build a system that does it all and is, run through one controller display here, and make it a much more, seamless process from an installation perspective too, right? So when we came to market, it was, let's build something that, from a custom install perspective, can be integrated discreetly, can have one controller, provide great service and support, and really handle the problem of false alerts, which is probably the biggest crux to this category. Is if you rewind back to the Fuzzbuster days and, GPA had on his windshield, right? It's pretty antiquated stuff, and I think the false alerts have really put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, because they are false alerting to a lot of things. You're passing a drugstore or grocery store, and they're constantly going off, and it's the boy cried wolf at some point, right? So people take them off their windshield, they put them in the glove box, and then sure, you're gonna get a speeding ticket guaranteed like the next week. It's Murphy's Law. So that's what we really came out to do, was to provide amazing service, like true product that we know enthusiasts and daily drivers want, and to innovate that category.
I think this is a great segue to my next question. You mentioned the false alerts, and that's certainly something that dealers should be aware of when choosing or partnering up with the right brand within this category. What are a couple of other important elements that dealers should consider when, figuring out which is the brand that's right for them?
Yeah, so if you're new to the category and you have never carried it before, or actually even for that point, like if you are currently carrying the category, I think real talk, I can tell you until I'm blue in the face how amazing our stuff is. And how great we are. I'll tell you our flaws too, but I think, and I believe dealers can agree with the fact that the proof is in the pudding. If I encourage you to speak to other dealers in network, hey, shop ABC, what are you using? Why do you use it? How is their support? How is the after warranty support? How is the information that you're receiving from the tech support line? How did the install go? What was it like to run the wires? those sort of things, and really kind of get the pulse on what they feel and what really works. I think the other thing too is that a lot of the product looks very similar to somebody who's not, I guess, and I don't want to say expert, somebody's not knowledgeable really in the category. Two radar detectors might look very similar and think they do the same thing. I use the analogy of like a Mazda Miata and a Ferrari 458, both two-door sports cars, fast as hell on the track, both fun to drive. When you start really pulling them apart, though, you can see the large, delta of the performance and the capability of each of the cars, right? So I think the idea is to really like speak to other dealers and know that no two detectors are alike. And there's a lot of great product out there. There is, but there's also a lot of subpar, product as well. So.
Okay, well, I think we're going to get an opportunity a little bit later on the show. We actually have a dealer coming on to provide us some testimonial, and we're looking forward to hearing from them. What are we going to learn about today? Give us an overview of your presentation.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of education, and I think not just me, but like Radenso as a whole. When I came to the company 5 years ago, or just shy of 5 years ago, it was brutal trying to find agnostic, non-rocket science information and about the category, about not just what radar detectors do and how they work and why they don't work, but also what the police are using. And I think that's a big thing, is to understand the difference between radar and laser and all the other, jazz the police are using, and how our products, help defeat that. We'll be taking a deeper dive into the Radenso DS1, which is our newest windshield mount unit. And then we'll also be talking about the RCM, which is our custom installed, discrete, sleek install, and our laser jamming system that pairs with it too.
Awesome. Michael, anything else to add before we get into the presentation?
Well, it's funny, Mindy brought up Fuzzbuster. I remember in my teenage years, I had a Fuzzbuster and I was driving into the States with it, and it was the size of a toaster oven. And I tried to hide it while I was driving through Ontario and Quebec. I was trying to hide it in a Kleenex box, and it didn't even fit in a Kleenex box. That's how big it was. So from where we came, where we came from back then to where we are now is like, so some reasons I wish I was the technology was back around when I was a teenager, but more often, I'm glad it wasn't around when I was a teenager.
There, fair enough. Well, don't forget, if our technology was good, so were the police officers as well. So it's all relative, really, if you think about it. Yeah. All right. So without further ado, Mindy, we'll give you the platform. You can go, and we look forward to learning about your presentation. And when we come back, we'll have some questions and get into a dialogue.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So I think the big thing with this category is education. Like I said, I talked about a little bit in the intro. To understand what radar detectors do is super important. I think it's also equally important to understand, in order to be able to sell this category like a boss, to understand what the police are using themselves. The technology that Johnny Law is using today is markedly different than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, et cetera. Simply put, there are just a lot of threats out there. We'll talk about radar, we'll talk about laser, MRCD, which is multi-radar, the different cameras, VASCAR, et cetera. There's just a lot of ways police officers are trying to, get your speed. That's at the end of the day, right? So that being said, let's start with what radar is specifically. I like to put it in a simple form. You can take a look at this sweet picture that we have up here. Essentially, it's an electromagnetic radiation in between a certain set of frequencies. So simply put, think of it like a radio. You're tuning your radio to a station, let's say 103.3, or let's say, Fly 54 on XM. See what I did there? You're looking for a certain frequency, whether it's AM or FM. Radar detectors radar works kind of the same way. In a very real way, your radar detector is basically a fancy radio receiver that's looking for specific frequencies or stations, quote unquote, that police officers are using. We also call this a continuous wave radar. So police radar guns work on a station or a frequency. So example, a K-band radar gun will operate at, let's say, 24.150. and never vary from that. Since continuous wave radar operates the same way all the time, every time, radar detectors are smart enough to say, okay, yeah, that's 24.150. I can see that. I'm going to alert the driver. It's not exactly rocket science, right? If it was only that easy, it's not. We then have what something's called MRCD, which is multi-radar. So this is what Berger was talking about earlier in Toronto, in the GTA. It's a new initiative in the last probably 2 years, if my brain serves me correctly. This is a massive, massive problem in Alberta. Is rampant in Washington, D.C., Maryland, Chicago, New York. It's a growing phenomenon that really stemmed from originally from Europe. And the idea is that, how we were just talking about continuous wave, it's always day in, day out, it's always going to be the same frequency at 24.150 from that handheld radar gun. Multi-radar is a frequency modulated radar. So it's a fancy way of saying that it constantly is changing the band of which, or the frequency which it operates on. So example, it might start at, let's say, 23.8 gigahertz and then bounce up to 24.3 gigahertz. And it's confusing for radar detectors because radar detectors, in full honesty, are not that smart. They are built to design with the idea of to look out for that set frequency. When you start messing with that and you start bouncing around to different frequencies, the radar detectors are like, what's happening? I might false alert. I might probably do nothing. So multi-radar cameras are stationary cameras. If you look on the left-hand side of the picture here, you'll see a stationary camera from New York City. They're found at intersections typically. Sometimes they're located on ways. They're in our database if they're a stationary camera, which is super cool to know. On the right is actually a photo from Edmonton. It's a mobile truck parked on the side there, and it's emitting its frequency from that truck, which is crazy because trucks, they move all around town, right? It's never a fixed location. And multi-radar, since it's so a variable, right, or inconsistent, most radar detectors cannot pick up MRCD. We are very fortunate that both the DS1 and the RCM, which we'll talk about today, both pick up MRCD and do it very well. To get a clear picture of what MRCD looks like is to visualize a piano and the 88 keys on a piano. Continuous wave radar is literally somebody plunking on a single key. 24.150, 24.150, over and over and over again. Then multi-radar works opposite. It's like someone starting at the top of the keyboard and sweeping their hands up and down, making this, beautiful, symphony noise. It is very different. So it's, again, confusing to radar detectors. So if you don't have a detector that can detect MRCD, you will get your ticket in the mail and pay that beautiful fine. It's not exactly fun. So then we're going to go on to the third threat, which is laser. It's a newer technology. It's been out for about 15 years or so. And the benefit to running, if you're a police officer or municipality running laser, the benefit to that is that you now have this small beam of light versus that electromagnetic, wave. It's really, really tight and honed. So let's figure maybe anywhere between a few inches to a few feet at its full width. The police officer pulls the trigger of the laser gun. It emits its beam of light to the car. And then within a half a second, it's bounced back to the gun and they have your speed within a half a second, which is kind of crazy. So the laser gun emits a series of pulses and then it's waiting for that pulses to come back to the car. And that's how it calculates the speed. Okay, you're going 135 clicks and 100 and boom, it's instantaneous. So since the gun is constantly bouncing pulses from the car as you drive, it knows that rate of distance, and that's what speed really is. And we'll get into the ALP laser jammers that we partner with in our custom install product a little bit later, but they work by inserting a jamming pattern into that pulse to break up the pulse. So the police officer's gun will just read zeros or 3 dashes or something like that. They can't get a speed on you because it's been able to interrupt that pulse back to the gun. Pretty kind of crazy, right? So we'll get more into that later though. The big thing is the difference between radar versus laser is I liken this to a thunder and lightning storm. When you have a big storm coming through town, the lightning is what you see first, and then however many seconds later is the thunder, right? So think of lightning as laser. It is instantaneous. When if your radar detector happens to pick up laser, you're a sitting duck. Whatever speed you're going is the speed you're going to get sighted at. The second thing is with radar, it travels at the speed of sound, essentially. So you have that time to slow down and get your speed, to whatever the posted limit is, and carry on with your day. I think that's the big thing is to know is that if you are not using laser jammers, you are definitely not fully protected. In some of the provinces and states where laser is rampant, Ohio is one of them, Alberta, a lot of the states here use it a lot, but you're not fully protected. And I think that's just a good thing to know that you are not, invincible, right? Ever, but especially with just a windshield mount unit, you want to make sure that, that's really a radar detector, not a laser, not really providing much laser protection at all. So we are huge in education, as I spoke about. So I encourage you to hop over to radenso.com and you can click on Radar University. We have tons of articles there in all, various formats. So whether you're an auditory learner or visual learner, you can see the written words, whatever. You can really learn at your pace to know more about the category. And again, it's very agnostic. A lot of it is not brand specific, which is, I think, good to know. So let's talk about your customer and why they're coming in the store for radar detectors. Chances are they are one of us. They like either speed or they like fast cars. And they probably have some really cool stories they can tell you about the time they were pulled over or the time they were the buddy and they were going $180 on their bike and whatever, right? The second reason they're coming in is because they're buying a Father's Day gift or a Mother's Day gift, and they want to get something, that they know that they would appreciate. I think another big thing too is coming back from, let's say, a family road trip or family vacation, and you get a nice, fat speeding ticket while you're on holiday. And now you're like, okay, I need to do something about this. Those are like the top 3 reasons people are coming into your shop to get a radar detector. The reason people aren't asking for them probably are because of years upon years of false alerts. Either their dad, their best friend, their boyfriend, whatever, has had a radar detector in their car and it's not been a great experience. And so why would they want one? And I think it's our job to educate the peoples of why this category has changed so much and how it can actually be a pleasurable experience. Another thing too is customer service. We are huge on customer service. I cannot stress this enough. Whether it's automobility supporting you or a rep network or in-house network here in Cincinnati, the thing is to know is that there are all of our tech team has all done their own installs, which I think is huge. So when you're calling up and you're talking about running wires through firewalls, or you're talking about where the, you need a pin out for a bridge cable, whatever, the weird oddity things that we'll hear in the course of a month, our team is trained on that because they've done it themselves. I think that's a really, really big thing. A couple other things there too that I think are important things to know as well. I won't go too deep into that though. I want to dig into the DS1, which is our newest radar detector. So this is in hand, you can see, I know it's difficult to see in deep detail, but you can see it's petite in size. You can see some of the cool features that I'm going to talk about here in the slide. The first and foremost thing is we built the DS1 to crush all things. That's the nice way of putting it. Kick ass, take names. It is super user friendly. It is a very highly customizable. So for people like me, I like to kind of set it and forget it, not have to worry about it. Our out of the box default settings are, what we have chosen to be the best settings. You've got people like a lot of my colleagues like to tinker with all their settings. That's great. You've got that option too. It is an incredible value as well. It is known for its extreme range. And I think that is a key thing, having extreme range in a radar detector. And it varies, of course, from environment to environment, but you'll have plenty of time to slow down, get to the posted speed limit and carry on with your day. It has phenomenal false alert filtering in the detector. So a lot of your blind spot monitoring, adaptive cruise control, lane change assist, traffic cameras, all those sort of things all emit radar pollution. And that's what makes radar detectors miserable. And we've done a phenomenal job at filtering out the vast majority of those false alerts. Not all, but the vast majority. We also have auto lockouts. So when you pass the false alert 3 times, it will register in the system. It will lock it as a stored out location. And the next time you pass it, it's kind of cool. It shows up in the corner, locked auto lockout, which is really neat. You can see, oh my gosh, all these false alerts it's saving me from. So like banks, hospitals, pharmacies, those sort of things, the stationary false alerts that drive you nuts, it takes care of that, which is, the combination is wonderful. The OLED screen is probably my favorite thing about it. So if you're rocking either top down or on a motorcycle, it has this, great bright OLED screen. Another cool thing about the detector too is it has 1/4-20 threads on the detector. So the top mount here, when you pull this off, is standard 1/4-20 thread. So think about all the things in your life that are 1/4-20 thread, like GoPros and other action camera mounts, tripods. Like a lot of things are 1/4-20 thread. So you can really build your own custom mount that you want, or you can 3D print, some cool things some guys on the forums have done. It really gives you the idea to have a completely universal mounting option. We're also super proud of the fact that we have a Radenso Nexus app, so you can control the detector fully from the app, Android app. You can update your settings. You can change your alert tones. If you're riding a motorcycle, like a lot of us at home base do, you can pair your Bluetooth, your Senna headset to that, which is super cool. Again, we try to think of it all. Not always, but we try to think of it all. Here is a nice shot of the different OLED screen colors. I know we saw it in the video earlier, but you can see, so let's see, you've got a fake news. You've got a lizard green GT3. You need to have your screen match, of course, right? And then there's a series of customizable tones too. In independent testing, we talked about earlier, we encourage you to review independent testing. We're huge fans of it. We've also, of course, do our own testing, and through, feedback. A little chart here. These detectors are all in the same price point, relatively within the same price point, the same price family, we'll say. You can see the DS1 versus our Radenso Pro M, which is our previous flagship model, and the Escort Max 3 detector. And again, a lot of it is pretty black and white, a lot of the points on it. Some of them might be seen as, subjective, but that's okay. We own that. So we're going to go on to custom install product. Again, this is an overview for Radenso. I wish I had hours to talk about all the stuff and all the technology and all the ins and outs. There's just not. Maybe a future episode, who knows? But we really want to make sure that we have time to get to all the product today. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention too, USB-C. This is the first widely distributed radar detector with USB-C and audio jack on the side too. Apologies for that. Sorry, it happens. Another thing too to point out, this is for all of our radar detectors that we're going to be talking about today. They are stealth to radar detector detectors. So, especially in provinces where radar detection is illegal, it is important to make sure that your radar detector does not emit any radar pollution at all that a detector could then pick up. A police officer, if they can essentially sniff out your radar detector, they have every right to pull you over in the provinces in states where it's illegal. So know that ours are stealth to RDD, radar detector detectors. Let's see here. Okay, so the RCM with AL priority, it is sold a la carte. So every customer is very different. So perhaps the customer wants, radar front and they want laser front. You can purchase that combination. Maybe they've got a RSQ8. It's got a huge, massive grill, or you've got a Platinum F350, or something. You're going to need a different setup than a Fiat 500, so to say. So we understand that no two customers are the same. We're very proud of the fact that we have extreme range on this. So example, I give, when I was in Texas right before COVID, running the RCM, about 8 or 9 miles. Now, granted, this was the desert, tumbleweeds, right, middle of nowhere, but kind of gives you the idea of how crazy the range on this detector actually is. Again, that known false alert filtering that we're famous for. So the detector is able to filter out about 95 or 96% of the false alerts in the market, which we're super proud of. Again, it has MRCD detection, really second to none. And we are the only system that integrate completely into one system with AL priority. So we'll talk first about the magnetic removable display, actually. So this display, you can see this little guy here. Boom, comes off, and it is an instant kill switch for the entire system. So if you happen to be in an area where maybe radar is not legal, or not that we're recommending or condoning, just stating a fact, you have the opportunity to kill your system. Another thing too is you can, remove it if you're parking in a sketchy spot, downtown. You want to make sure your stuff's safe. That is a great way to conceal the system too. We have 2 different CPUs. So this is your Radenso CPU here, and this is your AL Priority CPU. And the cool thing about these is they tie together into one simple bundle. You can either run them side by side, you can stack them on top of each other. We're kind of big fans of that. And then we've got, let's see over here, here is your AL Priority head. You can kind of get an idea of the size of that. Not too big, right? And typically you'll run 3 of those up front when you're doing an install. 2 in the rear, 3 in the front is a pretty common install. Let's see here. If you run front and rear radar, which we highly recommend, you will then have arrows to your system. So here's your front radar. Should look pretty similar to other radars perhaps you've installed. Put one in the front, one in the back, and then you've got arrows on your display, which is super nice and convenient. As far as updatable firmware and camera database, so we talked earlier about the red light and speed camera databases around the world, and they update every month in our system, which is cool. So as different municipalities and places pick up or drop cameras, we are constantly updating. Usually, like I know in Texas, remove their speed cameras, red light cameras, whatever it was, like 2 years ago. It took like about 2 months for it to update in the database, but was super cool. When Vancouver added cameras, same thing, a month or 2, and they're updated, which is really a nice thing. So every month or so, we're updating our database, and then we're doing firmware updates or feature updates, bug fixes a few times a year as well. So the idea being is we offer that complimentary service to you guys. We want you to extend that to your customers, invite them back in the shop. Hey, we did that system on your car, 6 months ago. Why don't you bring it back in? We'll double check to make sure that your software is up to date. We'll check to make sure that heads are still level. That's a really big deal to us. And I think it's a great way to get a customer back in your shop. Hopefully, while they're waiting that half an hour while you're updating, they're going to be picking up some, new speakers, or they're going to ask for some lighting for their side-by-side, or maybe a DS1 for their, significant other's, vehicle, those sort of things. And I think the other big thing too is our warranty support. So while our product is in warranty, we support all of our stuff in-house in Cincinnati. We also provide diagnostics and troubleshooting either via email, phone. We try to make it as easy as possible. And then after warranty support too, we still offer that support to shops and customers. If there's an out of warranty situation that occurs, it's a case-by-case basis depending upon, but it's either a flat rate fee for windshield mounts, or it is a la carte pricing for the replacement parts for a custom install product. A 2-year warranty and a 1-year ticket-free guarantee, which is a big selling point. We believe in our stuff. We're big fans of the product that we build, and we want to stand behind it. Another cool thing is the ALP sensors just happen to be parking sensors that also happen to then jam laser. So they ship in parking sensor mode. Kind of cool, kind of sneaky. So, if you are pulled over by a police officer, you can simply explain to that officer that they are parking sensors, that when you pull into your garage at night, you've got that extra, leeway to pull up to the garbage cans, and that you don't hit to your beautiful, Porsche 911 up against garbage cans. That's what they're there for. We are also, again, talked about it a little bit earlier, but the proof is in the pudding. We have a Dragon Eye and Radar Gun loaner program available. You can speak with your rep at Automobility or talk to us in-house, but we have a loaner gun program. So when you're doing an install, you can test your install to make sure it's good. You can also, I can tell you how awesome our stuff is, but how about you test it yourself? And the third thing is to build social media posts. And fourth thing is to show your customers, hey, look, you just spent X number of thousands of dollars. Let's show you that it actually works. It's a really cool thing, and it's very satisfactory for the new owner. So that's something we're a big, huge fan of. A typical install, people ask all the time, like, oh, what's a typical install? 8 to 16 hours. It so depends what hardware you're buying, what vehicle you're putting it in. I use the example that my M2 front rear radar, front laser, rear laser, 5-head kit was like 12 hours, 14 hours, and the 12 pack, and help with two friends, of course. But that kind of gives you an idea as far as labor goes. Now, you'll see here in a few minutes a video. The labor on that was very intensive. I don't know how many hours, but a lot. It's a great opportunity, though, to really build a lot of shop hours in for labor, which is the whole point, right? So great margins and the ability to make some labor money. Just to wrap up here, a couple cool slides to show some just killer installs that have happened this year. Alex Choi, you guys may or may not be familiar with him. He is a rallier, coast-to-coast rallier for Gumball and Cannonball, I think. This is his RS6 Avant, which is so sexy, that Cannonball Garage did in Chicago. And you're like, well, where are the heads? I can't even see them. That's it marked up. You can see so how discreet it looks. And this is with no fabrication at all, which I think is really cool. It's just a very, very clean install. He really made a good use of the grills. Here's an AMG GT that Monster did down in Atlanta. You can see, if you zoom in a little bit, you can see the 2 of the 3 ALP heads there. Again, they're not recessed. They're not behind grills. They're not behind mesh. If your customer wants to put this stuff hidden as far as laser, newsflash, you cannot hide or push away laser heads. They need to be in the open, whether it's via custom fab or in this place just actually exposed. That's a super, super important thing, that the heads are true, level, and that they're not recessed. And then the last is a super cool install that Cartoons of Atlanta did on an RSQ8. Now, this is kind of an anomaly. This was actually, I think, a 7-head kit, which is, then you've got that guy or gal who comes in that's just like, I want all the things. This is the install that you have. So this is 2 TX heads and 2 RX heads up front. And then they did 2 or 3 heads in the back. I didn't have pictures of the back of it, so I'm not positive, but it's definitely, again, no fabrication here. This is just a really, really clean install. And I just realized I showed 2 Audis. That's really uncommon. I usually always show Porsches, and people are like, you only put installs on Porsches. And it's like, that's not true. So anyways, that's it from me. We're going to send it back to Ben in the studio. Thanks everybody for listening, and hopefully you guys learned something.
Mindi, that was an exceptional presentation, might I say. Exceptional.
Aww.
I see a lot of these. This one was really educational. I really appreciate the effort you put into this.
Thanks. Hopefully it was interesting and you guys learned something new.
You had me all the way. From the very beginning, I told you I was not a specialist in this field, and I learned a lot. Therefore, generating some questions that I'll have for you towards the end of the show.
Love it.
But we got a dealer coming up, and I've got a video, so you can take a breather, and when we come back, we'll interview the dealer first, and then we'll have a little discussion about what we learned. We'll be right back.
Awesome. Sounds good.
So as you've seen in that video, that was some slick, stealthy install. So when we're going to interview a dealer, we wanted to go somewhere that also can provide that type of level of customization when it comes to the installation. So we didn't look too far. We went to Alberta, of course, and we knocked on the door of Certified Radio. And today we have with us their lead technician, Bryce Backman, coming into the studio. What's going on, Bryce?
Not too much. How are you today, Ben?
I'm doing well. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're a busy man and you got a busy beta to deal with, but we're talking about Radenso. We're talking about speed trap protection. And, from what I understand, you have a little bit of history in this matter. What is your experience with the Radenso product or with, this type of installation and category as a whole?
Well, as Mindi had mentioned earlier, we do have a rather large radar issue and whatnot in Alberta. So I've had quite a few years of dealing with radar and built-ins and the whole works. I love the fact that Radenso has gone the extra mile to build ALP into their systems. It makes it for a much easier product to put in for built-ins.
All right. So just to be clear, you are obviously hands-on. You're in the back dealing with these installs, overseeing the installs. Of course, what I'm referring to is mostly the custom installation type stuff, and like the product that Mindi just presented. So when it comes to the product itself, let's break this down into A and B question. How can you describe the performance and also customer satisfaction based on said performance?
Well, the performance is fantastic just for the simple fact that it allows us to get a system into the vehicle that will allow us to deal with multi-radar, with Dragon Eye. We pretty much have every different form of radar capable in Alberta, especially here in Edmonton. That being said, our customer response to it is fantastic as well. We have one customer, as an example, I'm putting his 6th unit in, and it's a full built-in unit. They're 40 to 50-hour builds each one. Like I said, it's going to be his 6th unit next week.
6 units at that level, like they must all be kind of like high-level installs, I imagine. I'm just guessing here. That means a lot, right? I mean, if the guy's going to spend on the same system 6 times over, he must have a lot of trust and confidence in the product, I would imagine.
Absolutely. It comes down to when you have a heavy foot and you have nice cars and whatnot, you need a level of protection that allows you to have fun with your toys in a safe way, but not lose your license in a summer kind of thing.
That would really suck, especially if you had that much money, held up in vehicles as well, right? So Mindi mentioned that the custom install side of things for Radenso, all the parts are a la carte, meaning they're not sold in a bundle, they're not in a box. You kind of pick and choose the components that you need for said install. Is that advantageous? What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. It makes it easier for us to custom tailor build a setup for each and every vehicle out there that we have coming in. Again, I'm in Alberta. I deal with everything from big trucks to sports cars and everything in between. And like Mindi said, there's no point in putting 6 or 7 heads on a Fiat 500. It just isn't going to fit and it isn't going to work all that great. And it's also overkill for the size vehicle that you're dealing with.
Okay, so it is good because it really allows you to cater not only the install, but the budget to maximize
absolutely.
or optimize the performance of the hardware depending on the vehicle that you're working on, right? So we got a lot of dealers, and I had messages even going into the show. Ben, we don't really do this business. We don't know much about it. Looking forward to seeing the show and hearing what other dealers are doing with this business. Can you talk to us a little bit? Again, there's a 2-part question. Number one, the business of this custom install, but also what is the level of difficulty so that other shops could kind of get an understanding for what they're getting involved with should they decide to embark on this?
Absolutely. We generally have a 2-step process when it comes to a lot of the vehicles. We'll bring the vehicle in and we'll do a consult with our customer on what their expectation is of the level of coverage that they're going to end up with. Every vehicle is different. At that point, we just have to try and figure out how we can accommodate what the customer is looking for. If he's looking for something that's more entry level, where we are just putting the heads where they end up going, not to disagree with Mindi at all, because she's a very, very smart person when it comes to this. But we do tend to stealth a lot of the installs as well in building pods for the laser heads as well. They'll go in behind an IR plastic, so you can't see them, but they still will end up doing the same job. So basically
an IR plastic, just for those who don't know?
Sorry?
What is IR plastic?
The IR plastic is basically, think of your TV remote at home. It has that shiny spot in the very center, face it towards the TV. You can see, or it can see the TV, but you can't see what it's doing. If you, as an example, pull out your phone and look at it through the video and press buttons onto it, then you can actually see the light come through it. It doesn't affect any of the laser light that's coming out or the IR light that is coming out of the unit. So you're not going to cause any interference when it comes to protecting the vehicle. But at the same token, when you're talking about a high-end sports car or whatnot, you're also not detracting from the look of the car as well. So on those ones, it tends to be a lot more labor intensive because we do have to create a place for it to live and create the pods for them to live in and whatnot. But it ends up being that you can take your car to a car meet and nobody knows that you have the system in there.
Right. So would you say, in your opinion, if we're talking about the true, car audio 12-volt specialist shops that we have across the country, that this is a type of job that they could probably accommodate pretty quickly and have a not too steep of a learning curve?
Absolutely. The biggest thing, all of the same principles for putting the systems in stays the same, whether or not you're doing pods with IR plastic, or if you're doing just a basic install, your laser heads have to send their signal straight forward, have to be level. So not a whole lot changes in that regards. The other nice thing about it, like Mindi had said, their tech support and dealer support is outstanding. Any issues that we've ever run into, it's a quick call and the answers are readily available for us at that point. So even if you are taking on the job and trying per se, if you give them a call, they'll give you a lot of helpful information right off the hop.
Very good. Very good. All right. So now that you saw the presentation, what, if I was to poke at your experience, if you could recommend an improvement or another feature or anything of that nature to Radenso, what would that recommendation be?
About the only recommendation that I could have, and it would obviously be a fairly lengthy thing for them to try, would be to separate out or have an ability of separating out the screen from the buttons. It makes it so you'd be able to stealth the original install just a little bit more on the inside of the car and have the LED, the warning LED that comes with the system as more of the primary notification to the customer. That way we can get it into a little bit smaller of a package. Dash is becoming more and more cluttered with buttons and everything. It just makes it a little bit easier to fit everything in.
I can only imagine some of the more hyper cars that there's not much real estate to work with at all. So that could definitely help that type of scenario.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much, Bryce. Your input has been absolutely phenomenal, and I can already hear the amount of experience you do. I mean, it sounds like you probably are working on a couple custom installs right now in the Bay as we speak, aren't you?
Yeah, actually, I have another built in for the customer that I was mentioning earlier. He's bringing one in next week. So we have a 22 C63 that we have to put one in here next week. So it'll be a fun week next week.
Nothing wrong with a little AMG in the garage. That's cool.
Nope,
all right.
Not at all.
Listen, I'm going to thank you. Stand by. We're going to put you in the back. We're going to get everybody back on because I want to just have a few questions as a group that I want to kind of get out there and get to the bottom of. So thank you for your time, Bryce. We'll be right back with you.
Thank you.
All right. So we had the opportunity. We talked to Michael Berger from Automobility. We talked to Mindi. There she is. And we also have Bryce with us as well. Let's bring Michael in as well. Mike, quick discussion. Mindi, starting with you, I want to give you an opportunity. You heard Bryce's comments. I want to give you an opportunity to comment on said comments. Oh, you're on mute, Mindi. There you go.
I was muting. I was trying to be polite. Yeah.
That's okay.
Commenting on comments. I'm here for it. So we at Radenso, we love feedback. It is always embraced. And I'm proud to say how much feedback we've been able to actually implement when we travel the world, literally. The feedback we'll get from New Zealand, Australia, Canada, it is invaluable. And it is not the first time that I've heard the feedback around the ability to separate the buttons in the display. Through witchcraft and expertise, there have been plenty of shops that have, of course, disassembled and soldered and made their own, concoctions and whatnot. But from the factory, it would be a great opportunity to offer that as an option. I think if when you take a look at our second custom install product coming in the future, relax, everybody, calm your horses.
Oh, I thought you were just going to put out something out there that wasn't planned on. Okay.
Nope. That is feedback that is huge for future iterations. I think the existing product, though, we've created the Radenso RCM pod, which I think is about to go live in Canada. It's an acrylic pod that mounts universally on the windscreen that holds all the buttons, but again keeps it off of the dash. So come up with solutions that we can for the interim, but I think right now I love the feedback and know that I think for future iterations, that's definitely, it's a no-brainer for us.
All right. Michael, going to you, you've heard some of Bryce's feedback. What kind of feedback have you heard from other dealers, as you obviously have many, many dealers across the country that are currently supporting Radenso product?
Yeah, the dealers that are carrying Radenso, you know, they love the brand based on the performance, the reliability, the feature set. You know, their customer service is excellent. You know, they can, you know, call and get support or technical help right away. There's no waiting. Which obviously is important, especially when you have a big install like a CI one. You know, you don't want to be waiting a day to get you know, a call back, and the customers, you know, especially in the summer, going away on vacation or wants their car back, and
Well, and
you run into
hour by hour, that's what you guys are getting paid by the hour. So if a car is sitting on the lift for 4 hours while you're losing 4 hours of labor, that you could be working on something else too, right? Like real talk, we understand that. Like we don't want you to have long hold times. If you're experiencing long hold times, for the love of Pete, let us know. You know, we can't fix what we don't know. But sort of hijack, it's really important that we understand lift time, and your time is invaluable. Like we value that probably more than almost anything.
I'm curious.
Dealers
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Good. Yeah, Minnie's an excellent point there. You know, it's not just, you know, they're doing customers' marine projects, their side-by-sides, the car audio, and, you know, you want to keep the jobs rolling.
Yep,
for sure. I think efficiency is something that Bryce could certainly speak to. It's kind of one of his titles as well. But Bryce, my question for you, I didn't get a chance to ask you, what is the takeaway or anything that you learned that was interesting from the? Sorry,
Ben, to interrupt you, but one last thing is the ticket guarantee that Radenso offers for the first year.
Yes, very good point.
That's very nice. You know, unfortunately, you know, being in Ontario, I of course don't have a radar detector, but you know, if I did have a radar detector, I would certainly use that, because for some reason I seem to get some tickets.
The radar detectors are illegal in Ontario. You are 100% right. But did you also know that speeding is also illegal in Ontario?
Funny thing about that.
Just saying.
Bryce, I didn't give you the opportunity to comment on Mindy's presentation. What was a takeaway for you from that presentation that you might have learned today?
Basically, finding out a little bit more about you know, the build-ins and that sort of stuff, along the lines of the magnetic controller and whatnot killing everything. I love that. The ticket-free guarantee as well is a big thing. I do agree with her when she's talking about the testing and how important it is for the customer. Again, if we're doing jobs that are 40 or 50 hours, the customer wants to make sure that what they're paying for actually works. So it's really nice to be able to actually give them a video of it being tested on their car each and every time. This is something
that you do with every job?
Every single job gets tested before it leaves, 100%. It has to. Again, when you're talking about the amount of time, effort, and money that goes into it, you're not just selling them something that just goes there and hopefully it works. We show them that, yes, it does indeed work. This is the parameters that it works. And we educate the customer on how they can make the product work better for them.
Well, that sounds exactly what Mindy was kind of trying to preach. This is, you know, it's great on the box what it says, but if a customer is paying that kind of money, right, we're talking lots of labor, especially the bigger ticket items. There is no way, if I was a customer, that I wouldn't, you know, can you please show me that this works before I pay this final bill? Because I'm not walking out of here spending this kind of money if it doesn't work. So I have a question about this, though. What is the expectation? And this I'm asking on behalf of dealers who aren't in this game yet. Say, when a customer comes in, what is the verbiage? What is the expectation that you set forth to your customer to say what type of system you can offer them? I'm going to go to Mindy for this one. And you're expert. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, what am I advertising? What am I promising my customer? That's, I think, the verbiage I want to hear.
So I think, again, real talk, because it's how I roll. I think the vast majority of your customers are coming into your shop not asking about radar. They're coming in asking for a new, well, say new sound system, right? New speakers up front and new sub and new amp. Okay, fake news. It's a good example. And it's let's say it's a 911 4S, right? Sick car, man. That's super sick. I love it. When did you get it? How fast did it go? What options did you get? You're chatting to the customer about the car. How fast did it go? Oh, I've had it up to 200. Dope. How are you not getting speeding tickets? They're not even thinking about it. They are hyped up on Mountain Dew and horsepower, right?
No,
like
no,
that's
correction. Mountain Dew in Canada has no caffeine.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's sad. Actually, the day I learned that was super sad.
Yeah.
Okay, they're all hopped up on Coca-Cola.
Red Bull. Let's say Red
Bull. There we go. And it's like, by having that dialogue with your customers, like seriously, take 5 minutes to actually learn your customer. I think I know it's like selling 101, but stop being a robot, just trying to like jam out the next customer and like really learn who your customer is. And then, yeah, it goes 200. Speeding tickets. What? Yeah, when was the last time you got a speeding ticket? Oh, in my C7, I got a 183 and a 135, and I got a 6 points and $600 fine. I don't know, whatever. Man, that sucks. Do you know that I can prevent that in the future? And opening that dialogue with the customer, I think, is just so important. If they're like, oh, I don't have that kind of money. Okay, you don't know unless you ask. Did you know that a DS1 plus a hardwire kit and 1 hour labor is in, I think, everybody's budget, right? Or not everybody, but a lot of people's budget that are coming through the door. But don't assume that if you're throwing down 200K in a car, even 100K in a car, and it goes fast, I think you're doing a disservice to your customer by not at least having that 5-minute bro conversation about speeding tickets and being protected.
Interesting. What's your take on this, Mike, as far as, the expectation and the delivery of how to pitch said product to customer?
Well, I think, Mindy's definitely got it bang on there, but there's also another instance when the customer comes in who just got a ticket and is looking for a solution, going, wow, I just got a ticket, or my son or daughter just got a ticket, and what do you have? Because insurance companies love to hold speeding tickets against you for the foreseeable future, usually anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So if you yourself or your wife or your son or daughter have a heavy foot, it's a great investment for sure.
And not even that, but like you're living in MRCD land, right? Or MRCD hell, I should call it, right? And you don't have to be going through it. Just
luckily you don't lose any points or anything like that because they don't identify who the driver is. But it's still,
But if you're rocking a DS1 or a
RCM,
100%.
Depending on how fast you're going, is how expensive the ticket is.
All right. Well, I think we've done the tour. We've got some testimonial from a dealer who actually installs the stuff and has a lot of experience with Mindy. Like I said, thank you again for the presentation and for the dummies Coles notes, because I needed it. I'm for one. I'll be the first to admit. So I appreciate that. I think what this represents is a brand that's obviously on the up and up, that's innovating, that's providing a ton of cool stuff, and definitely a brand to be discovered. So thank you so much, Mindy, for coming in today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having us.
And Bryce, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule in the shop. I'll let you get back to it.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you taking your time.
Take care, guys. All right. Let's bring Michael one time in just to close off with Mike. Mike, very interesting category for sure. The last question I have for you before I let you sign off, what is that final message you have for dealers? And it's kind of a two-parter, right? Because you're talking to two kind of dealers. You're either a dealer that's already doing this stuff, maybe with another brand, and was curious about what Radenso had to offer, or there's the other dealer who hasn't touched this stuff maybe in years or never, and it's like, maybe now's the time. What message do you have for them?
Well, I guess the message, it applies to all the products they're offering their customers. So, you should always present your customers with a choice of quality products that you'd feel confident in using in your own vehicle. Mm-hmm. So, it's, if the customer sees that you have something in your own vehicle and, this guy really believes in this product, it's in his car, yeah, like he's in the business. I'm coming here looking for a solution. Why wouldn't I trust what he's telling me when he has it in his own vehicle, him or her? Sorry. So definitely that, and it's it's a category that especially in Western Canada is you know it's definitely growing. The CI part is definitely growing, and it's a very good revenue stream for the dealers. As you can see, that one customer Bryce had, this is what his sixth car, like
40 to 50 hour job, he said.
Right.
Start doing the math, people. Start doing the math.
Yeah.
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 So.
I'm going to comment on what you just said there, Mike, and we'll close it on this. I know shops. I'm not going to name everybody, but I talked to a couple shops researching before going into these type of sessions with brands like Radenso. Some shops who are successful at this, it represents up to half of their revenue for the year, the CI vehicles. They don't advertise it because they're getting word of mouth referrals. They're associating themselves with the right groups, such as car clubs, dealerships, that type of thing. Once you're in that circle and then you get the referrals from the friends, it's just nonstop. And especially in the custom install stuff, we're talking minimum, $5,000-$6,000 installs. We're not talking a deck and four here. So something to think about, certainly. Right?
Absolutely.
Michael, thanks so much for setting this all up and bringing Mindi in, and for bringing Radenso to the forefront and presenting today. We'll talk to you on the next one.
Take care, Ben.
Take care,
Good
Mike.
to see you.
So that was all about Radenso. Shout out to Mindi for coming up and preparing that great presentation, and also to Bryce from Certified for taking the time. Wanted to remind you, I don't know if I had the chance, maybe I should put it up here. Let's just do it just in case. If you're looking for Radenso product, make sure you check out their website. It is radenso.com, right? And if you're interested in Canada to be a dealer, you want to hit up Auto Mobility. They are the exclusive distributor for Radenso in Canada. Reminding you to continue tuning into CMA Networks right through till Friday, July 8th, as we are still in the mobile audio accessories sessions. We're trying to bouncing around. We've done everything from wires to radar detection. It's one-on-one with a different brand each and every day. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure you visit our website, cmanetworks.com. If you like this video and want to get your learn on, we've got tons more videos where that came from. Search for them through your favorite brand, by category, or even your favorite trainer. On that note, I want to thank you for hanging in there with us here on CMA Showcase, presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
Stop it. Yo, roll it down.
I am.
You don't need a car to listen to SiriusXM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on SiriusXM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?